All right, so this is the first of several lectures on foraging and habitat selection. So we'll start with foraging, and there's a interesting topic on how animals find food, handle food, stay in what they call patches. So we'll be looking at all those things. So what I want to do is start with what is food and how do we find it. And so there's lots of questions that are asked. How to know animals know what food items look like, and so we'll start with that and talk about the theory. Um, and how does foraging theory predict where animals will forage and how will they eat? And how do group social dynamics affect foraging? We're going to look at the neurobiology and we're going to look at learning. So we're going to give you, I decided to give you kind of one, maybe two examples of each of these um, to kind of get the eye across. So here's, a couple different animals. It looks like they're eating very similar things, but obviously they're very different animals. So we want to look at how do animals find food. And I want to start with the idea of search image. And we're going to do this also in class. But search image is when animals encounter a prey type more and more, they form this idea of what it looks like. We all have search images, things that we recognize. And some things we're better at than others. We usually have a better search image for things we care about. Some people are very good at recognizing car types. If you're a car guy, that might be a search image you have where you look at a car and you can, especially older cars, you can tell by grill or tires or length. There's certain things you look at, and so search image is important, we think, when looking for food, and it really comes down to often your experience with the food. So sometimes new foods may be edible. Things may be edible, but an animal does not recognize that. And there's a couple of different ideas of why they do it. Some researchers argue that foragers are keying in on one or two attributes of the prey. So it could be color, it could be movement, could be some kind of color pattern. Others argue that the search is formed so you kind of know what the animal looks like. It doesn't have to be exactly that animal or that prey item, but you have this kind of overall picture of what it looks like. So let me give you just an example of search image. So the old animal behavior book we used to use in this class, one day I was tearing my hair out. I couldn't find it. I just, I knew I had it at home. I'm like, I know it's not in my office. And got to give you a little secret on my wife. I think she's trying to drive me insane. So I'll come home and I'll put stuff on the table. And for some reason, the whole table's clear, but she will then take her sweater and throw it over my stuff. That seems to be a running habit in our house. And again, I think she's trying to drive me insane. But so one day I'm tearing the house apart, and there's a picture of a frog on this book. So I'm looking for this picture of the frog. It's a green textbook. It's got a frog on the cover. It's not that hard. So I'm upstairs in the office. I'm in the dining room where there's books stacked and looking for this thing, and I can't find it. So now, of course, I'm accusing her of putting something on top of it, and I'm all frustrated. Well, it turns out I found it. Turned out my wife didn't cover it. Turns out I'd actually picked it up 3 times. And the problem was it was upside down. And so I am in my head looking for a green book with a frog on the cover. Well, it turns out the back of the book's yellow. And so although I actually physically handled the book, I never associated that with being the book I need. So there's search images. And so what happens often is when somebody points something out all of a sudden. So what I want you to do is in this picture is look for faces. And, you can see the 2 writers and it's this thing, but there's also some faces that are imprinted. And the minute you mention it, you kind of, they pop out. They're easy to see. So anyway, so that's what a search image is. So all animals kind of have this mental picture of what a prey item should look like. Okay, so what we're going to spend the rest of the time on on this is optimal foraging theory, and I'm going to actually talk about it a little bit more in the next little video. But optimal foraging theory is when you're going to look for food, how do you optimize it? You know, what food do you go for? You know, there are things about size. There's things about, okay, I'm searching for food. How long do I stay here before I move to a new area to look? And how much, do I change what I eat depending on what's actually here? So these are all questions that have been interesting to animal behaviorists, and they've come up with this theory, optimum foraging theory, that you try to optimize how you look for food and manipulate food. So that's what we're going to spend time on.